Hey gang, and welcome back to another EDH gameplay. This week we have 2 new players and 3 new commanders. This week I'm playing Phenax, God of Deception. Tom, who you'll remember from last gameplay, is playing Akiri Lineslinger and Bruse Burschurter. Matt is playing the Mimeoplasm. And JD is playing Selvala, Explorer Returned. For my opening hand, I kept Island, Felwarstone, Havengul Lich, Soul Ring, Factor Fiction, Fabricate, and Dimir Doppelganger. JD kept a hand with Plains, Umbral Manta, Rites of Flourishing, Authority of the Consuls, Forest, Emeria Shepherd, and Angelic Accord. Matt kept an opener with Choked Estuary, Exotic Orchard, Forest, Ugin the Spirit Dragon, Primordial Hydra, Buried Alive, and Intuition. Tom's opener had a Mountain, Plains, Sacred Foundry, Boros Guildgate, Swiftfoot Boots, Solemn Simulacrum, and Mycosynth Lattice. I win the die roll and start us off. Not wanting to put a bigger target on myself than I already am by playing Mill, I play an Island and pass to Tom. Tom plays his Sacred Foundry tapped and passes to Matt. Matt plays the Choked Estuary and passes to JD. JD plays a Plains and then casts Authority of the Consuls. Playing my second Island for the game, I cast Felwarstone and pass to Tom. Tom plays a Plains and casts Akiri, who comes into play tapped and gives JD 1 life. Matt plays a Command Tower and passes to JD. JD plays a Forest and passes back to me. With Akiri on the field, I feel like I'm no longer the main threat, so I play Reliquary Tower, cast Soul Ring, and cast Fabricate, finding Gilded Lotus. On his turn, Tom casts Swiftfoot Boots and then plays Boros Garrison, bouncing the Plains back to his hand. Moving to combat, he swings Akiri at JD for 1 point of damage. Matt plays Exotic Orchard for his land, then taps out, casting Primordial Hydra with a 1/1 counter on it. JD gains 1 life, and the Hydra comes into play tapped. JD plays a Plains for his land and then casts Selvala, Explorer Returned, and passes to me. My turn sees a Command Tower come into play, and then I tap 5 mana to cast Gilded Lotus before passing to Tom. Tom replays his Plains and casts Solemn Simulacrum. JD nicely reminds him that all creatures come into play tapped, and he gains 1 life. This time, Akiri chooses Matt, dealing 2 commander damage. During Matt's upkeep, Primordial Hydra doubles its +1/+1 counters. Matt plays a Forest, then casts Buried Alive, finding Keterek Leviathan, Jin-Gitaxias, and Terastodon. Moving to combat, Matt swings the Hydra at me, dealing 2 damage. JD plays a Forest for his turn, then parlays with Selvala, making us all reveal a top card of our library. He sees 3 non-land cards. He then casts Angelic Accord. In response to JD's end of turn, I cast Factor Fiction, targeting Tom. I don't remember exactly what was in the piles, but Animate Dead was one of the cards, and with Matt having just cast Buried Alive, the choice was pretty obvious. During my first main phase, I cast Animate Dead, targeting Jin-Gitaxias. JD nicely reminds me that it comes into play tapped, and he gains 1 life. I then cast Lazav, Dimir Mastermind, and JD once again lends a helping hand. I pass my turn, and at my end step, I draw 7 cards. Tom plays Sunhome, Fortress of the Legion for his land, and then casts his own Gilded Lotus before casting Godsend, a card I've rarely seen but I think is great in EDH. Paying 1, Tom equips Akiri with Swiftfoot Boots, and swings her at me, dealing 4 commander damage. On Matt's upkeep, Primordial Hydra doubles again, and Matt plays Bayou for his land drop for this turn. Moving to his combat, Matt swings his Hydra at me for 4 damage, and then follows that up with his second main phase by casting the Mimeoplasm. Matt has Mimeoplasm come into play as a copy of Keterek Leviathan, and needs his own Terastodon to give it +9/+9. All of our boards get bounced back to our hands, and Matt passes to JD. JD plays a Plains for his turn and recasts Authority of the Consuls before pillforting it up hard by casting Ghostly Prisons. He passes to me. Urborg comes into play for my land for the turn, and I cast Soul Ring into Gilded Lotus, into Felwarstone, into Dimir Signet. Having ramped enough for my turn, and thankfully having Reliquary on the field so it doesn't force me to pitch my hand, I pass to Tom. Tom's turn sees Gilded Lotus come into play, and he casts Solemn Simulacrum, which JD helps him out by tapping. He finds a basic land and passes to Matt. Matt plays a Swamp for his turn and swings his 14/14 Keterek Leviathan at Tom. During his second main phase, he casts Triskelion and passes to JD. For his turn, JD lays out a quick Fumigate, wiping the board, gaining 3 life, and allowing Tom to draw a card from Solemn. In response to the board wipe, Matt takes the 3 counters off Triskelion and shoots JD in the face for 3. With nothing else, he passes to me. Cabal Coffers is my land for turn, and I tap Soul Ring to generate a ton of black mana. I cast Oblivion Sour, targeting Matt, but unfortunately it whiffs. I then cast Consecrated Sphinx and pass to Tom. Tom recasts Akiri, Swiftfoot Boots, and Godsend, and then using his remaining mana, goes full-on Voltron, gearing up Akiri. Matt plays City of Brass for his land, and then taps 5 to cast Primordial Hydra with 3/+1/+1 counters on it. JD, still not drawing a land, casts Rites of Flourishing and passes to me. I play Tainted Isle and Swamp for my land drops, and Phenax finally joins the party before Silent Arbiter comes into play tapped. Tom draws for his turn, and I use Consecrated Sphinx as trigger. Tom casts Refurbish, and things take an alarming turn as Mycosynth Lattice comes out of his graveyard. He then casts Sword of War and Peace and equips it to Akiri. Moving to combat, Tom swings the enormous Akiri at me, and I throw the Eldrazi in front of her. Matt's main phase sees a basic come into play, and he casts Prime Speaker Zagana, drawing 7 cards. He then plays an Underground Sea and casts Mana Vault and passing to JD. For his turn, JD plays a Forest, and then Selvala comes back onto the field. He then casts Umbral Mantle, a card that does some pretty degenerate things in EDH. Being totally tapped out, he passes to me. Watery Grave comes into play untapped, dealing 2 damage to me for my first land. I cast Junk Troller, a great way to get cards back from my graveyard to my library. I then cast Consuming Aberration, probably one of the top staples for any kind of Dimir deck that wants to mill. With nothing else, I pass to Tom. Side note, I'm also drawing a bunch of cards, I just don't feel like announcing it, so please don't worry that I'm missing triggers from Consecrated Sphinx. Tom plays Inventor's Fair for his land drop, and obviously having Metalcraft, cracks it to go find an artifact of his choice, and finds Darksteel Forge. Tom isn't done playing with his library though, and he casts Stoneforge Mystic, finding Sword of Light and Shadow. Declaring attacks, Tom swings Akiri at me again, and I respond by casting Impulse. Unfortunately, I don't find an instant speed answer, and Silent Arbiter has to take one for the team. Not wanting to miss an opportunity like I had with the Oblivion Sour, I tap Silent Arbiter to mill Tom before the exile trigger occurs. At the end of Tom's turn, Matt putrefies JD's Umbral Mantle. Matt plays his land for turn, casts Grim Monolith, follows that up with a Sholdred, and then casts Pernicious Deeds, which if you're running a Mycosynth Lattice on the field, is not a card you want to see. I cast Counterspell, but unfortunately Counterspell gets mana drained by Matt. Moving to combat, Primordial Hydra smashes into me for 12. At the end of Matt's turn, Tom nicely reminds him that Shoulder comes into play tapped. Unfortunately for JD, during his upkeep, Selvala has to be sacrificed to Shoulder's trigger. During his main phase, he plays a Forest and then casts Hornet Queen, which gives him enough sack fodder to last him a while. At the end of JD's turn, I use Consecrated Sphinx to mill Tom for 6. On my upkeep, unfortunately Junk Troller becomes a little too fond of my graveyard and decides to join it. He does get his revenge, and I tap him to force Matt to mill. During my main phase, I play a Swamp and a Drowned Catacomb before counting up Graveyard, which makes me realize that Consuming Aberration is a 32/32. I cast Tezzeret the Seeker and uses -5 to hopefully go find an answer. It's at this point that I realize that my mill deck needs a bit of work, and unfortunately all I find is 1000-Year Elixir. Tapping Cabal Coffers, I generate a ton of mana and cast Tree of Perdition. Unfortunately the tree comes into play tapped, but thanks to 1000-Year Elixir, I'm able to untap it. I then tap Tree of Perdition, again thanks to 1000-Year Elixir, exchanging its toughness for JD's life. I then make a big mistake, and like any control player knows, you should never tap your resources on your turn. Instead, I tap Consuming Aberration, forcing Tom to mill 32 cards. I cast Solemn Simulacrum and pass to Tom. Almost as if his deck knew what he needed, Tom is able to draw Sword of Body and Mind and cast it, equipping it to Akiri. Moving to combat, with my only creatures being blue, I'm unable to do anything and I promptly die. At the end of Tom's combat step, Matt casts Intuition. As the game had been going for a little while, Tom moved to his main phase, casting Darksteel Forge as Matt was still looking, which forces Matt to blow up his Pernicious Deeds for 3, which pretty much wipes the board and kills everyone's land. With JD being the only opponent to have a creature on his board, and Matt having Shouldered and huge beaters on his side, the game was pretty much over and everyone scooped it up. Review time. Okay, so I missed a bunch of triggers from Consuming Aberration. Phenax is fun and Mill is an interesting strategy, but I found that more often than not I was just playing a really bad version of blue-black control. There were lots of cute interactions like Tree of Perdition and 1000-Year Elixir, but I really wasn't able to get anywhere with a win. I had Jin Gitaxias out, I had Consecrated Sphinx forever, I was able to tutor a bunch of times, and I still couldn't find answers or win conditions in the deck. Tom's deck was really cool, I was really excited to see the new partner mechanic, and unfortunately Brule wasn't able to come out, but Akiri did a huge amount of work for this deck. It's pretty crazy to see how big she gets with cards like Mycosynth Lattice or any equipment on the field. It's a shame that JD wasn't able to get more lands. At the end of the game he revealed his hand which had a bunch of 8 and 9 drops, but he wasn't able to play them. I've never had the opportunity to play against the Selvala Explorer Return turn deck, so I was really keen on seeing what it could do, which was a bit of a buzzkill. Matt managed to play a really tight game balancing aggressive and defensive, being able to control while at the still time putting pressure on other players. Since Tom and I seemed to be the primary aggressors this game, Matt was able to sit back and just use his answers when he needed. It also certainly didn't hurt to have Pernicious Deeds when Mycosynth Lattice was on the field, as it pretty much was able to guarantee him the win. Anyway gang, I hope that wasn't too painful. Control is not my normal playstyle, so I made quite a few mistakes, but hopefully you're able to enjoy the game for what it was. Please be sure to come back every Monday at 11 AM Eastern Standard Time for more deck tech, top 10s, and gameplay videos. As always, thank you for watching, and please be sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe.